All right, we would like to welcome AT&T Ambassador Jordan Spieth to the Media Center here at AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Jordan, welcome back. You're going to be making your 10th start here, a place that is very special and where you found a lot of success. What's it like being back and around the course?
I mean, I think it's arguably the most beautiful place in the United States, especially for a golf lover. It's got to be #1 spot. And then when we get the forecast that we have this week, it just amplifies, how amazing it is to play these golf courses. And, I've played well here, I think, in part because I've kind of fallen in love with the tracks, but also because I have a great time with Jake. We go out there, he keeps me light. And we try and kind of feed off each other as if we're playing, a round at home. So I look forward to this week. The rounds are long and such, but there's plenty to look at while we play these courses. So I've always really embraced it and had success because of that, I think.
And last year, a little bit different situation with COVID, but what's it excited to be back with the Pro-Am format? And fans.
Yeah, I am. It was kind of cool to play it last year. It kind of felt like the U.S. Open in a way. Obviously without fans, but just the idea that you were playing Pebble Beach 3 times and playing in a tour event and kind of contending and competing. It was a little different for a year, but I think, as I mentioned before with Jake, I think it's somewhat advantageous to have somebody that I'm so comfortable with, where we've played here before, and we can kind of hopefully feed off each other. I mean, he's a really good player too, so we'll be trying to. It's almost like when you're trying to shoot up the leaderboard on the player amateur side, it kind of takes your mind off and you can start really playing nice and aggressively and trying to make a lot of birdies, and sometimes that's kind of a good mentality to go in with.
With that, we'll open up with questions. First one over to Steve DeMeglio.
How are you feeling?
I feel good. I mean, I felt good. I just had some issues going on the last couple weeks, so I wasn't 100% by any means, and I'm probably still not, but I'm getting better. I should probably be at 100% by Thursday, would be my guess.
Have you lost weight?
I did. I think I've started to put it back on. Yeah, I mean, everything was just kind of running through me. I got a bacterial infection in my stomach and had to get on some meds, and I didn't know that until I finished my round Thursday, the second round. But the test had come back before I teed off, and it was what they were testing for, and I didn't see it till I got done, or I may not have played, but it doesn't make a difference.
If this wasn't Pebble Week, would you have played this week?
I think so. Again, I finished on Friday. I mean, I knew I had almost a whole week to kind of get on top of it, and I rested for a couple days and started to feel, a bit better, and things started to get a little more back to normal. And so I think so, yeah.
We'll go next over here to Ron.
You mentioned Jake Owen. Why have you guys clicked so well, and any shareable stories? I'm sure there's some unshareable stories, but story you could share that maybe conveys how that partnership has helped you here.
It's almost like playing with it's almost like playing with like a buddy that you always play with. Like he's gonna give me crap when I miss a putt or do something. It's almost like you don't get the over positive, the over oh man, it's okay, you can get the next one. The stuff that like you don't really want to hear sometimes. You almost like when it almost kind of gets under your skin and makes you really focus when he kind of gives you crap, or he's like, hey man, it'd be nice if you contributed to the team on a couple holes. Like that's the kind of stuff that we'll do back and forth to each other, and I think that that helps. It just kind of makes you feel like you're in a game at home.
Jordan, you mentioned the forecast this week, looking like some good weather's coming. Does that change your approach at all heading into the tournament, how you practice and how you get ready, or is it just kind of business as usual?
I think it just makes it a bit easier to get prepared because you don't have any limitations. I think the one thing is as the sun comes out in the afternoon versus the morning, I mean, it can play a club or a club and a half different. So I think tomorrow I may play a little later in the day since I played a little earlier today, just to kind of see. Here, the ball goes about as short as anywhere that we play relative to what you'd expect. whether that's, the uphill shots or just the heavy air, obviously the cool mornings. But, I mean, you hit some clubs where it's just almost uncomfortable what club you're hitting from certain yardages because you can't go above holes on any of these courses either. So it's a challenge, and I think when it's going to be gloomy or rainy or anything, it plays similar the whole week. But when the sun's going to come out, sometimes that ball will start to fly a little bit, quite a bit more than the morning. So I think that's how the difference in preparing is maybe playing some holes in the afternoon.
Go in the middle here to the MK.
Jordan, another Under Armour ambassador broke the internet again today by saying his retirement. Can you just talk about your relationship with Tom and maybe something that you learned from him in order to be a great athlete?
Well, he plays a real sport, but I think I was actually a bit surprised just because of the level that he's still playing at and just the limited but quality time I've spent with him. We've played a couple rounds at Augusta National. We've done some things through Under Armour, California to Baltimore, and then over the phone, just keeping in touch and just the competitiveness that he has. I feel like he's got to find a hobby or something because he'll go nuts sitting still. But obviously, as I've seen, he's voiced that his priorities are going to be with his family, and obviously he's given so much to the game that that part of his life he's going to, really kids growing up and getting older and spending time with them. So I think his perspective has changed. I think he was quoted as saying he wasn't going to be his preparation wasn't going to be as competitive or something. He didn't see himself going through, the amount that he would want to go to leading into each week. As far as our relationship, he's not only somebody who's, I think, helped when things have been going really well for me, helped kind of boost that and give advice on how to continue to kind of push yourself forward when things are going really well. But he's also one of, a few phone calls I've gotten when things are really bad, to be able to be somebody that can relate to the ups and downs of a career and kind of what he went through and giving his perspective. And I'm actually, I've read TB12 Method before, but I'm in the middle of it right now, reading it each night, just kind of going through it again, mainly just to kind of look into what he's done. I think he changed the way that athletes should not only prepare, but also recover. And I think, looking at a sport that was just so rooted in your go lift heavy weights, that's how you get stronger, that's how you perform better. I mean, he's totally reshaped the game of football, but I think in a sport like golf where longevity is key, there's a lot to learn from him as well.
Then over here in the middle with Dave.
Hey, Jordan. You said you were sick for a couple of weeks. You had this thing kind of ongoing?
I always get some nasty sinus infection stuff, and I had it and tried to kick it with antibiotics and ran through a couple of those, and that kind of destroyed my stomach as it does. Unfortunately, to an extent where I got what I have, C. diff is what it's called, and it was about 5 or 6 days straight of it being pretty bad, and I thought it was just because of I thought my stomach was just and it was just going to get better. And then when it didn't, into when I was playing and I started to feel it while I was playing, I was like, I got to go figure out what's going on.
Did you notice a loss of distance or feel in the swing or anything?
No, I was walking differently and very much not involved in a lot of the holes that I played. And I think, my parents even, they were like, yeah, you just did not look like yourself on whatever PGA Tour Live or whatever. The last like 3 holes of the first round, I was just trying to get in the house, and then pretty much the whole second round was a tough go for me.
We have in the back Doug Ferguson, and we'll go back over to you, Ron.
Spell C. diff, because we can't.
It's C dash. It's C differentia or what? It's like a colitis. It's a type of colitis. Yeah.
Tiger said something a billion years ago as it related to the press and by extension, actually the public, that they tend to exaggerate when things are going bad, but they also exaggerate when things are going well.
Sure.
Can you kind of offer your own insight to that way of thinking?
Yeah. Well, I think I shot 61 in the 3rd round of Phoenix last year, and all of a sudden I was back. you know, and I'm sitting there going, I shot one good round. And it's almost like it was like, oh, he forgot how to play the game, and oh, now he's the best in the world. And in one day, that was like an eye opener for me last year right there. I was like, I kind of just remembered how you got to just taper things down, I think, a little bit. I think, it can go either way. I mean, you feel that way too as a player. It's not just the way it can be portrayed by media. A lot of times as a player, my expectations are so high that I can feel like I'm, way lower than I actually am, but I can feel like, I probably should chill out a little bit and check the ego a little bit at times as well. So I've always talked about staying a bit more neutral on and off the golf course while playing. So it's one thing to be as obviously competitive as you want, and you can get mad, but I think getting negative is what really hurts you.
It's going to be a tough one for you, but Patrick was talking about the Walker Cup, and you playing a match and everyone kind of looking out the tunnel. You got to the first tee early. He said Jordan had a look about him that you just knew he was going to win. We asked him what the look was. He couldn't describe it. Would you happen to know what he's talking about?
The Walker Cup?
Yeah. What would that look be?
I don't know. Maybe impatience. I mean, I felt like I was playing well, but I was frustrated that we were losing and knew that I needed to get a point. So I think I was just kind of like frustrated with how the week had gone as a team, because our team was so stacked, and it should have on paper just been a blowout, and they were the underdogs playing like underdogs, and I played Andy Sullivan, and it was a pretty good match, and then I made a couple long putts and closed the match out. But I don't remember the first hole. I remember like a few holes on the back nine.
Speaking of which, and going back to what you said a minute ago, if you're trying to keep neutral, do you have any role models in that regard? Who would you like to, which demeanor would you like to emulate if you could?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think Tiger's is historically, like when he can get mad, but any round I've ever played with him, I've never heard him get negative. And then when he's pumped, obviously, it looks like you would think he's here and here, but I actually think he stays more level there, and it's just more of an intensity and a drive that's kind of causing the immediate emotion, but still bounces back to a pretty neutral place each shot. So I think that's probably, you want to be able to get mad. If you don't get mad at a bad shot, it's hard to get a lot better, and it's hard to learn from it. And then obviously on the good, you want to. That's what we practice all the time for, is for those good shots or those big putts. So you should get really excited and pumped up, as long as you can kind of level it back down by the next one. So I'd probably.
Have you ever gotten so pumped up that you forgot to bring it back?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Too many times to count, probably. Sometimes that's, yeah. That sometimes can be harder than getting yourself up from when you're mad. Is calming yourself down when you're too pumped up.
We'll go back over to Ron.
One more amateur question and one golf question. You mentioned Jake's impact on you. Is that particularly helpful given your demeanor on the course? I mean, obviously we all see you talk to your ball and sort of the intensity. Does Jake help manage that in some ways?
Probably. I think, if I'm doing a little bit too much, he's like where Michael would just kind of be like, all right, I'm just going to let this one go. Jake will step in and be like, I don't know. So yeah, I think he's comfortable to play with. He does great in this event. The most fun I had was the year that I won on Sunday. It was a totally different Jake on that tee. He was so nervous. He didn't want to stand in the way. It was myself and Jake and Brant Snedeker and Toby, Wilt, his partner. And Toby and Brant had been in the final group a number of times, and he's won it and whatnot. And Jake just didn't want. And Brant is somebody who will give Jake more crap than I will. and he knows him from Nashville and stuff. So he was just making Jake uncomfortable from the get-go. And then I was just piling it on, and I don't even know how many holes we took of Jake's that day. He was just trying to just stay so out of the way. And so it kind of goes both ways. But that was kind of the most notable difference I've seen. Most of the time it's him getting on me.
And you mentioned the overreaction maybe when you shot 61 in Phoenix. And then the next week, obviously, you contended here. How much did that event here, the way you played at Pebble last year, really, in your mind, move your comeback along?
About the same amount that each round at Phoenix did, and then each round at Riviera did, and then Bay Hill, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's just such a process. And I just started to gain a bit of confidence in what I was working on, and it helped push the agenda more and more and more until, and then, you know, the toughest part then was, you know, I'd be in the trailer working out and golf channels on, and I just see the amount of days since the last win, you know, and it's just these outside stuff that noise that you try and block out. And so I think I did a really good job last year of recognizing, hey, I've got some good momentum. I'm working on the right things. I feel good about this track. It's a long-term thing. This doesn't need to be here and now. Keep putting yourself in the position. You know, the game will give you one, and it ended up doing so, you know, in San Antonio and almost a couple other times. So I think I did a good job of slowing the game down a little bit, just being very pleased with the step-by-step, week by week, round by round kind of momentum.
And I guess the extension of that is when you did win in San Antonio, is that when you felt, okay,
I didn't feel any different then than I did at any of these other events I was talking about. The putts went in that day on Sunday, and I hit good putts at Bay Hill, good enough to win. I made a couple mistakes, missed a couple fairways I couldn't miss. Here, I just didn't quite get the ball to go in the hole on Sunday, but I felt like I was doing everything right. And it was just it was a relearning how to win when you go kind of winless for a long time. You know, you just kind of, that patience to kind of be okay with going on the same path and not changing things. And I think last year I did a really good job of that. But when I look back, you know, I look back at the year, and yes, it was a solid season as far as, you know, how many good finishes, and, you know, what second going into the playoffs and the FedEx Cup, whatever it may be, or world ranking points for the year. But I look back and I think, you know, all right, now how can I take this step by step to try and close the door a couple more times, because holding 54-hole leads and not winning leaves a really bad taste in my mouth.
Jordan, going back to the Tiger Woods question earlier, during a round, which is more difficult for you to bring yourself back down from a high, or to get yourself past a low when you're trying to just finish the round on a good note?
I think probably the first couple rounds, it's more, you know, if you make a couple bogeys, getting yourself, you know, level from there. I think once it hits the weekend or you're contending is when you got to worry about the other side. I mean, I don't normally fist pump Thursdays, even though every stroke matters the same. It's just, you know that it's Sunday and you're towards the lead, and you want to close the tournament out. And so that's when you got to, I think, is lower it down, kind of keep resetting, or have a goal throughout the round that you just stay focused on that goal. And that's probably the easiest way to keep the high, you know, level. But the first couple rounds is kind of getting into a nice routine and doing the same thing, but you don't normally get too high unless, you know, you make a hole-in-one or you hole out, you know, something like that where it gets really exciting.
Unless we have any others, we'll finish up with Steve.
Earlier today, Daniel Berger didn't know that he now has a tour-leading 13 consecutive cuts made streak. Did you know that you had the 20 last week, and how disappointing was it?
Yeah, I knew I hadn't missed one since that event last year, and so I mean I hate missing weekends. I wish that there were no cuts ever. It's not something you really want to think about unless you get to that point on Friday and you maybe have to change the way you're playing something to try. But you know, it was a little bit of a different circumstance because yes, I played poorly, and it's not to say that I would have made the cut if I was 100%, but I didn't. I was almost like I told Michael when I got done and saw, I was like almost relieved that there was, because I felt like pretty bad and I just didn't have anything in the system, and I was just hoping that maybe something actually was wrong, so this wasn't like normal in a weird way. But safe to say the South Course at Torrey just may not be a place that I see myself for a little while. I haven't had a ton of success on that golf course other than the U.S. Open.
Does the 20 make Tiger's 132 even more remarkable?
What was mine was what? 20. Oh, yeah. Yes. I mean, to go, it was 142. That's 7 years. Yeah, I'm not sure if that one will be surpassed. I guess with the amount of weeks like Sung Jae plays, he's got a chance of doing it in like 3 years. But and with how good he is, I might need to throw that in there. But sure, absolutely, that kind of consistency at that level. I mean, you got to beat. There's 156 players last week, and 70 make the cut. I mean, that's not where professionals set their standard, but to do that week in and week out, have, a couple double bogeys in 2 rounds off of maybe not even making much of a mistake. I mean, sometimes you get to think that he went that long with, obviously, I was there the day that, I think it was the Byron Nelson, I think he missed it at Cottonwood Valley when they used to play it, and I was on that hole when he missed the cut there. I think he bogeyed the last, maybe missed it by 1 or 2. I was a kid watching the tournament, and like pretty upset because obviously you missed out on who nobody missed out on Tiger on the weekend in 7 years. Now I just missed out on the weekend of Tiger in 7 years.
All right, that's all the questions we have. Jordan, thanks for taking the time, and good luck this week.